I remember I saw him and he saw me, and we were passing each other and we were walking past a wall of mirrors, basically. And I remember thinking to myself, I think he's really attractive. There's something about him. There's confidence, whatever it is. I need to get to know him. So as we're walking past each other, I'm like, if he turns around and he looks at me and he checks me out, I'm in. I'm going for my move, which I would normally never do, but I'm in. We went out later that night after the show to a club, and that was really the beginning of 14 years. In the dream, I'm still wearing my pajamas, my nightgown that I went to bed in, and I'm standing and like looking into a bathroom. And I see Justin, and he's like, Weez, I'm dying. What do you mean you're dying? You're not dying. What are you talking about? So I was like, let me just go on Facebook and look at his Facebook. And I go to his page and I start seeing like rest in peace, rest in heaven. And I mean, I without buffering it, I lose my shit.
Welcome to Next Realm, Beautiful Stories from Beyond, a show that explores the profound and heartwarming stories of individuals who have experienced messages from their departed loved ones. I'm your host, Amber Rasmussen, and today's guest is Edwina. She shares a story of her relationship with a very special person in her life and how he came to her in a dream to say goodbye. And not only that, but connected to her Oma from beyond the veil in her first astral projection experience.
As a hobby, I used to be in the fashion scene, and I do runway shows and, things like that. Nothing that were paid, but just for fun, and I was in really good shape at the time. So I was like, wow, this is like the best time of my life to like get into this type of stuff. So really stumbled in that on accident. And there was a show that was happening that I wasn't walking in. I was like, well, let me just go be a part of the audience. I feel like I'd never done that. So I go to the venue, and here is this man standing, and he'll probably laugh at me when he hears this podcast on the other side. It's not that he was like 6'3", because he's not. And like all this stuff. It was just his radiance, his confidence about him. I remember I saw him and he saw me, and we were passing each other and we were walking past a wall of mirrors, basically. And I remember thinking to myself, I think he's really attractive. There's something about him. There's confidence, whatever it is. I need to get to know him. But I was like, but I don't want him to know. So as we're walking past each other, I'm like, if he turns around and he looks at me and he checks me out, I'm in. I'm going for my move, which I would normally never do, but I'm in. So I use the mirrors on the back wall to my advantage, and he walks past me. I keep looking straight, and I look in the reflection, and he is just like, and I was like, oh, yep, that one's mine. That's mine. There it is. I had friends who were fashion designers. I had friends who were photographers, and I really pulled like a little gallery of my friends together. And I was like, look, do you see that guy over there? I want to talk to him. I want to get to know him. I don't even know his name yet. Like, help me be my wing people. Like, let's do this together. Like, okay, what do you need? I was like, you are going to say that you need him in a fashion shoot. You are the photographer. Let's make this happen. So my friend goes over there, and she's like, hey, you would be interested in being a part of some of my fashion lines and da-da-da-da-da. And as she's talking to him, he's like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. He has a Brooklyn accent. He was from Brooklyn originally. And even more like swoon for me, I'm like, oh my gosh. And as he's talking, I see his phone sticking out of his front pocket. And I take his phone out of his pocket. And he's like full on conversation. So I'm just helping myself to his phone in his pocket. And he's kind of distracted. And he's like, what? I'm trying to have a conversation. I don't know what's going on. And he's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm just putting my phone number in here for later. And he's like, oh, okay.
You're bold.
That was the boldest that's the boldest I've ever been in my entire life. Ever.
That is amazing. Amazing. I love it.
And, it worked out. His name's Justin. We exchanged names, obviously, got to know him a little bit. And we went out later that night after the show to a club. And that was really the beginning of 14 years of, this beautiful, turbulent at times relationship that we had.
Oh, wow. Wow. So what was your favorite thing about him? If you could summarize, I know it's hard to do that sometimes because there's so many things that we like about people, but was it his laugh? Was it his sense of humor? Was it the adventures you went on? Just tell me what you loved about him.
He had a sense of curiosity that never stopped. He was very much into the woo. You know, he was a child who grew up seeing spirits. He's actually in a book as a child, and his family is on the East Coast. You know, he almost was one of those type of kids that just really had that. So he's always very much been in that. So he was curious about life. He was curious about what his birth chart was and what his signs were and spirituality and synchronicity and all those type of things. And he loved to read. And he would always tell his friends, he's like, oh, did I ever tell you about the girl who used to steal my books? Which was me. And the reason why was because when we first started hanging out and we first really started dating, he had all these books. And I was like, you know, I really like this guy and I really want to get to know him. Let me see what he's reading and let me read what he reads. So I'd be there for a weekend. I'd take him out, bring him back the next weekend, whatever it might be. And I didn't realize that he had basically like a whole system for his books. So a couple weeks later, he's like, are you taking my books, girl? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you take them and then you put them back in the wrong place. So I know that you're taking them. And I was like, I like you and I want to know how your brain works. And you like to read and I like to read. So I figure if I read the same books as you, I can get a better understanding of who you are as a person. So he was okay with that.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet. Were you involved in the woo? Were you down with it? Or were you like, oh, this is interesting that he likes this or
I was down with it. I didn't really understand it as much. You know, as a kid, I was honestly terrified of death and ghosts and cemeteries and anything that had to do with anything scary. I remember being in music class as an elementary school kid, and they did a thing on banshees, you know, over in Europe and Ireland and Scotland and banshees. And it terrified me to the point that I could not sleep for 2 days. My mom had to write a letter to the teacher and be like, she can't be in music class. She can't, don't scare my child. She can't sleep for 2 days.
Oh, no.
I think what it was is that I was already always sensitive. I just didn't understand.
Well, yeah. And it's just part of how we grow up is that's scary stuff. Like that is, you know, kind of that unknown, I guess. And unknown can be scary for sure. Did you catch the part about Justin being in a book about the woo? Turns out he and his family had some abilities. Let's find out more about that.
It talks about like his mom, you know, how she has her abilities and he had them as a very young child, like 4 years old. I always thought that was really cool to know someone who had that. You know, we never really talked about that so much. We did talk about death a little bit. And I would always be like, well, you know, aren't you afraid to die? And he would always just be so calm about it and just be like, it's just one door that opens into the next, you know, and then he'd go about his day. And I was like, what? What do you mean? What do you know? You won't physically be here. Like, you're going to be dead. He's like, oh, you know, like we're just a soul having a human experience. Yes, after the fact, you know, after you've gone through all these things and you're on the other side of it, you're like, yes, absolutely correct. But before that happens and somebody tells you that, you're like, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So he kind of knew the bigger picture.
I think what I'm realizing is a lot of people don't think of like, this could be the last interaction that I have with said person. This could be the last time I get in my car, I get out of my car, you know, the last time I get off a plane, get on a plane type of things. Like we're so focused on what's happening next, what's the grind, what's the hustle, what's this, and we're not present-minded.
Oh, so true. So true. We never in a million years. That's why we're always shocked when you get the phone call or someone tells you bad news. It's just, oh my gosh, I just spoke to them. Or it's just so shocking. 14 years is a really long time.
Yeah.
Together too. There's lots of memories, lots of history. So she was your person.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's 14 years off and on. Like we were together, we did our thing, we took a break, life took us down separate paths, we came back again. Like it was always kind of that ebb and flow, but the waves always brought us together. And when we were together, we were just the best version of ourselves. And that's, you know, that's really what I feel like love is. You know, you become the best version of yourself. You learn to take care of yourself for the other person.
As we all do in life, and like Edwina mentioned, we have our ups and downs. Justin was striving to be the best version of himself, but was unfortunately battling with addiction like so many people in this world.
He did not like that he had substance abuse issues. He understood he was an intelligent person. He was curious about life, and he wanted to do more with his life. He really wanted to help other people. Going through addiction and battling addiction is a very difficult process, and there are a lot of people who cannot win that battle. It's very unfortunate, but it is the truth. I think, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 months leading up to it, I kept having just strange dreams. And I can't remember what they were specifically, and I'm usually pretty good about writing my dreams down, but I would text him or call him in the morning and be like, hey, I had a weird dream. I need a sign of life. I need to know that you're okay. No, I'm fine. He'd always call me Wheezy. No, I'm fine, Wheezy. Don't worry, girl. I'll stop by later. Or, no, I'm good. Or, this is rough. Whatever mood I would catch in it. And, I'd really made that promise to him of even though this is not the clean, clear picture of what we think a relationship is, even though there are other aspects involved in it, I'm not going anywhere. I made the decision. I am imposing my free will. I'm not going to go anywhere. We've been doing this for way too long, and now's not the time for me to just walk away. You just don't do that. I remember the last time that I saw him in person was, I want to say a few days before he passed. He came over to my apartment, and we, hung out, we chatted, we did our thing. It was just a good, regular, just us. We were in a good place, and he was still dealing with addiction, obviously, but I was I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how much time I'm going to get with him. I can piss and moan and bitch and be angry that he's using or yell at him or do whatever, and it's not going to help the situation. Or I can really just enjoy the time that I have with him. And I made the decision to do the latter, and I'm really glad that I did. He went on his day, kissed me goodbye, we had a good time. And I want to say, he passed September 2nd. So I had gotten a puppy a couple months before that, German Shepherd Husky mixed puppy. And I was walking my puppy outside. So, September, it's still nice, shorts, t-shirt. And we got to this little park, which was in the neighborhood that I used to live in. And everything was just quiet. No birds, no planes, no traffic. It was just, I never heard nothing. I'm looking around and I'm like, this is odd. And I look down at my dog, who's only, a couple months old, 5-6 months old, still very much young. And he's just sitting next to me and he's looking at me this is weird. What is going on? I was like, okay, so it's not just me. This is very strange. Didn't think anything of it. He did his thing, took the dog back upstairs, went to bed that night fairly early, probably 9:30, 10, nothing out of the usual. Went to sleep. And I had what I've realized are called false awakenings, where you wake up within a dream. And I'm in the dream. I'm still wearing my pajamas, my nightgown that I went to bed in. So I'm awake in the dream, so to speak. And I'm standing and looking into a bathroom. And I see Justin. And he's getting ready for the day. He's got on a wife beater and jeans, those black Nikes and a black, Yankees hat, because it's from Brooklyn, gotta represent. He's just doing his regular thing, getting ready, make sure he looks good, brush his teeth, shaving, stuff like that. And I noticed his brother, his really good friend who had passed from cancer the year before, was sitting in the bathroom just quiet, just observing. And he's like, Wheeze, I'm dying. What do you mean you're dying? You're not dying. What are you talking about? You're not dying. I was like, Anthony's here. You're not dying. And he was just so calm about it. And he's like, Wheezy, I'm dying. And I remember pulling on Anthony's sleeve. Anthony is now sitting next to me. And I'm pulling on his sleeve, almost like a little kid would. And I start crying in the dream. And from doing that in my sleep, I wake myself up. And I look at the clock. It's 3:32. And now it's September 3rd. And I was like, that was a horrible dream. Don't think anything of it. Don't call. Don't text, And I was like, I'm just going to fall right back to sleep. The dog is still sleeping in the kennel. Totally fine. Go to sleep. I wake up September 3rd. It's 7 a.m. I was like, gosh, that was such a weird, it really stuck with me. That was so weird. I was like, let me just look at his Facebook. I'm never on Facebook. It is not my thing. It's not what I do. So I was like, let me just go on Facebook and look at his Facebook. No idea why. And I'm sure it was him on the other side, yeah, I told you, so don't be mad. And I go to his page and I start seeing rest in peace, rest in heaven. And I mean, I without buffering it, I lose my shit. I lose my mind. It's 7 a.m. I am now standing on my bed, crying hysterically, unable to catch my breath. I don't even know how I stood up. I'm just standing on my bed. I'm that shock hits you, that bomb. Just you're imploding, you're exploding, you're doing all the things, and I'm like, what is going on? And I think my brain actually went into a mode of trying to protect itself. And I was like, no, this can't be real. Maybe something happened and he's in like witness protection and this is just what the feds told him to do. And he's actually alive and he's in witness protection. No idea why I would say that, but that was like my brain being like, oh, this isn't real. Like, let's just make up this really action type of adventure story.
Right.
And, I called his aunt, who I was in communication with, who had also known me for 14 years. And I was like, I can't call her hysterical. I was like, I have to calm down. So I called her and I said, hey, Mary, I don't mean to freak you out. I had a dream that just passed. I told her about the dream. And I was like, this is what's on his Facebook. I don't know what to do. I'm not in touch with his sister. I'm not in touch with his mom. I'm just letting you know. And she's like, no, I'll look into him. She was the one who called the family because I called her. And then that kind of started, everything.
Within a few short calls, it was confirmed that Justin did, in fact, pass away.
And I was like just in that state of shock,
Like it made it real.
Yeah, it made it real, but it didn't make it real.
Yeah.
That which doesn't explain anything.
No, I get it. It's like real, but surreal at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's real, but it's not quite like in my brain yet. Like,
exactly. Like, okay. His sister had reached out to me then via Facebook and she's like, what happened to my brother? And when she was waiting for me to call her back, she had called the morgue in our city and she got her confirmation that way. Which is, that's a horrible way to find out that your brother had passed.
It is real. Mm-hmm. Did you immediately think, oh my God, the dream? Oh my God. Like, were you tripping? Or did you even put those together? Like, oh my God, he told me.
I understood it after the fact. I ended up calling my best friend, hysterical, and she had the best response as a best friend. She was just, I'm losing it, hyperventilating on the phone and whatever. She's like, I'll be at your house in 15 minutes. Click. I don't think I really sat and thought about the dream, maybe until she came over and I could kind of just cry and talk through it. I think I was just in such a state of shock. At his funeral, his sister was already there with some of his family and some of her family. And then I walked in. We're going through the funeral, and we had a funeral and then we also had a memorial like a couple days after. And it was just that feeling of like somebody is watching me from the corner. Like I very much felt it. And I'm like, is he here? But didn't really like think of it, like didn't understand it. His mom, who's very much into this type of stuff, she would share podcasts and books and things like that. And, her and I would start talking about it, which I think was really helpful. And it gave my curiosity kind of a sense to lead into. The dreams were very, very prominent. It would be dreams of I would be somewhere sitting in a house and he would walk in through the front door. I would be in a dream somewhere and I would see him working somewhere. I would see him, or I would be in a house and he would walk in with like a bag of Gold's Pringles and he's just like standing there like eating. And I'm like, dude is always eating like all the time. So they were very prominent, very heavy. And that really spurred my curiosity. I'm like, I have to know where you're at. I have to know where you're at because you are somewhere. You're not gone. You're not, up there. You're still here. Your energy is still here. And the way that I kind of described it to myself without understanding it was he's on a different frequency, just like a radio dial. But if you turn to that frequency, you're, listening to his world. And if you turn to this frequency, you're listening to this world. It's kind of like AM and FM type of thing. You know, I took FMLA to really give myself a break and cry and stare at a wall for 4 months, which I'm very happy I did, because I wasn't, you know, I was useless as a human being and I didn't care about any work meetings I had. They're like, hey, can you come to this work meeting? I'm like, I don't care. I really don't care. I ended up taking FMLA, but that's really when my whole curiosity, and I was like, I have to know. I have to know. I have to find out. I need to learn. And I didn't know where to start from. So it was podcasts and books and Amazon cards and Reddit and all kinds of things, you know, trying to communicate with him, always talking to him, even if it made me look crazy. And then I was like, well, I think I can ask for signs. So then asking for signs. And that started coming up, you know, something super specific. Show me an octopus today if you're around. Show me a peacock feather. Things like that.
Would that happen?
Yes.
Would you see? Really?
Yes.
That would freak me out. Like, peacock feather.
Yeah.
I just got my peacock feather. Yeah.
I remember I was on the phone with my friend. It was my birthday. It was last year. And I was walking my dog. And I was telling her, I was like, you know, I asked Justin for balloons for my birthday. That'd be kind of cool if I get them. And I cross the street. And all of a sudden, these blue balloons, they're like kind of half deflated, come rolling down the street. And I take a photo and I send it to her. And I was like, you're never going to believe this. She's like, what, you got balloons? I was like, I got balloons. Yeah. She's like, you literally just asked me 2 minutes ago. And I was like, that's just how strong my man is.
Oh my gosh. And well, we've been calling them meaningful coincidences. Mm-hmm. So people who are skeptical, sure, they can be like, oh, that's just so random. But I'm like, but no, it's very specific. And I guess until it happens, you know when that is meant for you.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And we start just being more aware of signs, I guess, once our loved ones pass. I did the same thing. You know, our friends gave us books and then it was like, oh, that's what that dream was. Oh, that's what that meant. Oh, okay. And so then it was like, oh my gosh. But then there's a point too where you're like, not everything's a sign. So which ones aren't really signs? Like my light was flickering and it was just my light bulb was going off. Yeah. I was like, is that him?
Yeah.
Like, how do I know if it's him or not? But you kind of start realizing which ones are which.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's why, you know, I ask for the really obscure things, the things that are so ridiculous. And I'm like, look, you're going to have to work at this, sir. Like, if this is really you. And sometimes it'll take a couple days, but it happens. You know, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm not going to say it around my phone because, you know, phone's listed. I'm going to write it in a journal. I'm going to ask for, I asked for tic-tac-toe. And I was like, you know, if you're around, show me like tic-tac-toe. And I didn't say it out loud. I wrote it down and I put it in my journal and did things. And I want to say it was maybe a couple weeks ago, I was paying for parking. And I look at the parking board and there's someone who had started a tic-tac-toe game.
Oh my goodness.
So it's those type of things, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. Do you feel like he's trying to tell you I'm okay? I'm good. Yeah. I'm just in a different place. Like kind of what he was telling you before he passed.
Yeah.
Of like, it's not gone. It's just a different, yeah.
You know, like, I think he is. I have gone to a medium a couple times and he's totally fine. Like it's, you know,
they all are. It's usually it's us that struggle. It's us here on Earth that struggle and really have a hard time with them going to a different place. But they're always like, I promise you, I'm good. I'm good. I'm in a really good place. I promise. Like I'm not addicted to drugs anymore. Yep. I'm healthy and happy.
Yep. You know, he's healthy, he's happy, he's learning, he's growing, you know, and sometimes when I'm on one or, you know, I just kind of feel like being cheeky. I'm like, oh, wow, cool. You know, it's been super cold here in Seattle and it's raining sideways. Like, what's the weather like over there? Oh, 70s? Oh, great. I have nice weather in the afterlife. You know, like a little bit of that dark humor comes through, you know, so.
How long's it been since he passed?
It's been over a year now. So his anniversary was the 2nd of September.
Okay. And has the signs dwindled a little bit as the time goes on? Or, because I don't really ask for signs anymore. They were coming without me asking in the very beginning. Mm-hmm. But I didn't think that I could actually ask for them. Or like, hey, I'm needing a sign. It's been a few years. But that's a really good thing for people who want to continue to to see the signs? Because I feel like some of us are like, yeah, it came fast and furious in the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the time goes on, it feels like they kind of stop. They kind of dwindle a little bit.
I feel like the dreams have dwindled. Maybe that could have been part of my grief, but there are definitely some dreams that weren't dreams. I know that they were definitely visitations. I think the last time he was in a dream was probably like a little over a month ago. And he's usually pretty, frequent with stopping by and doing those type of things. But the signs, they haven't stopped. They just haven't.
Oh.
And I do my part. I feel like, when I walk the dog, I talk to him every day. In the morning when we do our big walk, it's in like a forest area with different trails and it's nice and quiet. So I can be out there looking like a weirdo at 6 a.m. talking to nobody, but in my head, it is somebody. I always say good morning. I say good night. If I'm traveling someplace new, because I travel for work and have to go internationally, I'll be like, ooh, come with me, come with me. In my head, I'm very much keeping the relationship alive. And I know that sounds weird to some people, and I'm totally okay with that. I did have... I have a medium that I go to, and she's confirmed that for me without even me bringing it up. She's like, this is something that he wants to keep creating and cultivating. And that's why I feel like I'm doing my part here to learn and to understand. And I feel like he's doing his part there to also learn and to understand, because it's a new experience for him too.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any other like favorite signs that he's done or coincidences or anything?
Songs. If I ask for songs, it will happen. I had it happen. I was with my friend at a restaurant, and it was sitting by the dock of the bay. At one time, we went and played pool up north, and that song was on, and he grabbed me, and we were just, dancing in the bar, nothing sexy. But it was just a really happy memory. And I was telling her, and I was like, yeah, we were dancing to sitting on the dock by the bay. And we were talking about it. There was a pianist, so he was playing a song. That song ends, and he starts playing that song. Like, he starts playing Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. And my friend is just looking at me, completely wide-eyed, jaw dropped. And she's like, there's a light flickering like behind you, just so you know, all this song started playing. And I was like, oh, he's here. Hey, honey.
He's here. Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. I love hearing these stories because everyone, it's like they want you to like have these good memories. Like, hey, I am still here.
Yep.
Has your, I guess, interest in the woo furthered or deepened since this all went down? I know you were like, okay, cool. Like when you first met and he was down for it, but you were kind of like indifferent. But now that it's happened to you, because like, did you have signs before him?
I think I did. I just never realized it was a sign. I never really put it together. Like I've always had synchronicities, seeing numbers and things like that. Trying to understand like the little bits, and social media has really picked up on spirituality and kind of had it trending for a while. So people kind of went on to that. But yeah, I went to the Embassy of the Free Mind in Amsterdam, which is a museum about Hermeticism and philosophy. It was built way back when, I want to say the 1600s. And it was a house that housed people who just didn't really necessarily see the same way that the church did. And they wanted to know more about spirituality and astrology and astronomy and tarot cards and frequencies and how music carries frequencies and binaural things and just really interesting stuff. So I did that. My Amazon cart is usually full of books all the time. Yeah, it's created such a curiosity, which is that connection to love. One of my latest purchase of a book I had been sitting on for a year because it was $150. And I was like, I know.
This was a special book.
It really was. It's called, I actually have it here. It's The Afterlife of Leslie Stringfellow.
Ooh, okay. We're going to have to link to this.
Yes, it is. It's about a family in the South, about 1800s, and their son had passed, and they were very spiritual. The U.S. was very spiritual back in the 1800s, and they started talking to him via planchette after going to a medium, and his mom had journaled everything. So yeah, that was just, I think I started crying, on top of all the normal crying that I'd done. But when I really started reading this book, because he told his mother, when I'm gone, find me. Like, don't leave any stone unturned. So that, really, like, they want to be found. I mean, how awful would it be to get to the other side and be like, man, nobody cares? Like, I'm here. Yeah. I can make shit happen.
And it's like a really good point that you're saying, I want to be found. But in my mind, I'm thinking, please find me. Like, once you get to the other side, come tell me you made it okay, or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? But like, it goes the other way too, because they're navigating a whole different realm, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you think about that, it's like, yeah, come find me. I'll come find you. You come find me.
Yeah.
And we'll meet in the middle, because we really are, when you're having these communications, whether it's through signs or visitation dreams, which I didn't even know anything about. When it happened to me, like, you're kind of meeting in the middle.
Yep.
You're kind of, he's bringing his vibration down, and you're kind of trying to raise yours, and you get there. But it's such a cool thing. And I hope everyone kind of has these experiences, and it definitely has opened my eyes, and it makes me want to know more. Like, I want to order that book now. Yeah. I'm going to have to set aside a couple $100.
It's so worth it. It's so worth it.
For the extra special book.
Yeah.
If I lived in Seattle, I'm in Oregon. If I lived there, I'd be like, can I borrow it for the weekend?
Yeah. You know, I think the biggest thing that I've learned through this is that I think a lot of people think, you know, when we die, it's either nothingness, it's a void, or we are just floating, and that's kind of
aimlessly out there.
Aimlessly out there. Yeah, but it is actually a physical reality, just like this is a physical reality. They just don't have the same constraints that we have. They can do things to better themselves, to gain more knowledge. They have jobs, they can build homes, they can connect with their family, you know, and you still keep your personality. When I go and talk to the medium, it's not like he's like, oh, hey, I'm an angel and I sit on the cloud. Like, he still talks shit. So, you know, he's still who he is, which I think is great.
Because he's a ball of energy. He's, you know, he just had a human physical body. But part of, I don't know, I guess I'll ask you, like, has your thoughts or opinions changed on things like addiction or just life? Because I feel like I've changed on how I view things now, because I realize that coming here to Earth is our choosing, and we all choose different paths, and we all choose our challenges here, and that's part of what we're here to do, is to learn. It's like Earth School. So he must have chosen this addiction as his thing that he was going to experience. And I don't know, it definitely, I struggled with depression in my 20s, and had I known what I know now, I don't think I would have been depressed. You know what I mean? It would have just been like, oh, damn, I chose this. Okay, I got this. This is not going to get me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know. Has the way you look at life changed at all?
It has. And I feel like there's two caveats to that. Sometimes I look at it, not like, I don't want to say morbidly, but maybe just a little bit darker. You know, if I'm stressed out about something, I'm very much like, none of this shit is real. Doesn't matter. None of it's real. Doesn't matter. None of it's real. You know, worried about this bill or that bill or whatever is happening. I'm like, none of it's real. It's all made up. It's just the constraints that we have. So you can look at it that way. And then I have the other side of me that's like, oh my God, none of this is real. This is great. Like, I am not going to be pressed or stressed about anything. I'm going to spend my money because it's going to come back to me, and I trust myself. And, you know, I know that what's going to happen to me is meant for me, and not in the sense of that false positivity and that, you know, almost negative positivity. That's so just like Pollyanna, picket white fence and all that kind of stuff. But just like, we're not making it out of here alive. We can't take our things. We can't take our money. We can't take anything of actual physicality. What we can take is the love and the memories and the experiences. And that's what it's really about. For me, it's just, I want to know. And I found, like, the deeper that I go, the older the books get. I found books from the 1800s, from the 1700s. The stuff used to be talked about. Very much so, very prominent. You know, meditation and mediums and seances all used to be regular, normal things, especially here within the U.S. And now, people are terrified of death. People are terrified of dying. And I understand that there's the grief aspect to it, of course, you know. And I try to stop saying that I've lost someone, because he lets it be known I haven't lost anyone. We don't understand how to combat grief. We're not given time to grieve. If you work in a corporate job, they're like, hey, take 3 days off. It's like, okay, I'm going to come to work crying for the next 3 months, though, so don't ask me to do anything, you know. Take your FMLA. If people are watching this and grieving, take your FMLA. Your job will be there. Sorry if the government doesn't like what I just said, but it's true.
Yeah.
You
It's like, what's the point? You can't focus. You can't
yeah,
do a good job. But
you're not
yeah,
there.
death is really, it's a hard thing.
It
And
is.
we are human. And so, yeah, of course, we're going to go through the feelings. But when
Mm-hmm.
you kind of see the bigger picture,
Mm-hmm.
when you are open to the woo, like we have been, it doesn't make it as scary anymore.
No,
I guess. And it does help, at least for the people that I've interviewed and myself, like it does make it a little easier to understand and easier to not be scared.
Yes. That little girl that I used to be that was terrified of death and ghosts and anything like that, she's gone. Now if there's anything that pops up on my YouTube or on my Netflix, like surviving death or seeing what the afterlife looks like, or someone came back, or NDEs or out of body experiences, I'm like, watch.
Me too. I'm like, yes, put that on the list.
Right?
Oh, I want to hear about that.
Exactly.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And just finding good authors. Stafford Betty was another author that I found, and this isn't a plug or anything, but this was one of the first books I read. It's called The Afterlife Unveiled. Okay. And it really it's a good read. It's a quick read, but it lays it out. Like their physical body is dead. Yes. Whether it's been buried, whether it's been cremated or turned into a tree, whatever it might be, their physical body doesn't exist. They still exist. They're still going on. They still have to learn. They still have to grow. They are still understanding everything. They don't get to the other side and they're like, oh, everything is great. They still have a personality. They still have feelings. They can still feel a certain way about someone or be angry about something. And that's not to say that they come back at you to be mad or, any negative type of like latching or anything that you have read about, anything like that. But they're still people.
Such a cool story. But as we were about to wrap up our interview, Edwina explained something incredible that had just happened recently, and I had to have her come back on to share it with me.
Through my studies and through my curiosity, I stumbled onto Robert Monroe and the Monroe Institute. And Robert Monroe was, kind of a bigwig in the radio personality way back in the day. And he really wanted to get into just what else is out there, what is consciousness and things like that. So there is a meditation that you can do that's called hemisync. And it's called hemisync because in one ear, you have a different frequency for the right side of your brain. And in the other ear, you have a different frequency for the left side of your brain. So as these are going at the same time, your brain is kind of melding and your ears are trying to kind of figure out what's going on, but it's been shown that you can actually leave your body. So I was like, let me just try this for kicks and giggles. This was a few weeks ago. I was still on the tail end of being sick. So I was like, a hot bath sounds great. I got some Vicks Vapor Rubs, bath salts. I didn't even know they made those. And I was like, this is living right now. I'm so excited just for a hot bath. So took my phone into the bathroom, had my speaker in there, turned on a candle. And I was like, let me just sit and rest and see what happens. 30-minute guided meditation. Someone comes on, it's a woman's voice. Relax your body, work on your breathing. Any thought that you have come in, just kind of push it aside. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I don't meditate. Like my brain is always like, da-da, 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 and this, and that, da-da-da-da. So I was like, we'll give it a try. I'm not expecting anything at all. I get in there, I'm relaxed, I'm in my tub, I'm comfy, I'm quiet. The dog is doing its own thing in the living room, so I have no disturbances. And then at some point in time, probably like 10 minutes into it, she's like, now I'm going to just give you time to listen to the hemisync and see where you go and ask the questions that you need to ask. I'm like, okay. My physical body is sitting in the tub. My consciousness is in this park that I grew up living across the street from as an elementary school kid, under this big tree, like this big chestnut tree. And there's Justin, and he has his head in his lap like he normally would. And I can feel the breeze of the warm day. I'm clothed, I'm wearing a t-shirt, I got a whole outfit on, and I'm really having this moment of like, okay, but it's real. But I also know that my physical body is in the tub. So I'm like, it's very strange that I can feel the wind blowing across my skin when my arms are completely submerged. Like I'm up to the water in my neck, basically. And I'm like, I can feel all the things around me. I can hear the birds, everything's real. And he was just so happy. He was happy. He was calm. He's like, you're learning everything. This is so great. This is really cool. Like, we can meet here. We can do this. And I'm like, yes. A little strange, but okay. And he gets really quiet for a second. And he looks at me and he's like, everything's about to change. And I was like, what do you mean everything's about to change? Like, is this, you bring me here to break up with me? Like, is this an astral projection breakup? What is going on? And he was like, no, just be quiet, just be quiet. And I was like, okay, a little hesitant, but fully trusting. And as I'm looking at him, my focus changes. I am no longer in this park underneath this tree. I am now in my home country. I'm originally born in the Netherlands. So I'm in the Netherlands. I'm in the street where my Oma had her house. My Oma passed away in October of this last year. Has not come into dreams, little tiny appearances, but not much. And I am very much like, where is she? Like, I'm the granddaughter. My cousins are boys. Where is she? I should be able to pick up on that. It's kind of how I've been feeling. All of a sudden, we're in the street of where my Oma lives. And I was like, oh, this is what he meant when everything's going to change. I grab him, like, with me. I'm like, we're doing this together. And we go into my Oma's house. And I will probably cry for this. And so we're in my Oma's house. Here's my Oma's best friend who had passed years before from cancer that my Oma ended up taking care of. My great uncle, who I hadn't seen for, probably 20 years. And he looks to be in his 20s, like really young. He had on a white sweater, nice khakis. My Oma's in the kitchen making coffee for everyone. And so I get in there and I introduce Justin. Oh, Justin, this is Gerda. Oh, Justin, this is Oma Raf, my uncle. That's Oma. And, Gerda right away is like, oh my gosh, like, he's good job. He's cute. And, Oma Raf and him are talking. And I see Oma and I go to the kitchen. And I'm just kind of standing there. And she's like, yeah, I just, she said it in Dutch. And she said, ik moest even wennen, which is like, I had to get used to it. I had to get used to, I'm still here type of thing. She kissed me and I could feel her cheek against mine. Like, that physical feeling that you actually have, knowing that my body is sitting in a tub, but also knowing that I'm having this experience and having that, it floored me. It completely took, it was just, I didn't know what to do. And, then I kind of all sit back and I watch them. I'm like, oh, these assholes are all having coffee together. Like, what the hell? You jerks. We're over here crying and you guys are all just hanging out. And, the meditation ends. The lady comes back on. She's like, okay, you're going to come back to this body now. And she gives you a countdown and you're here. And I'm just sitting in a tub and I'm like bawling. And then I'm like, holy shit. That's never happened. He knows how much Oma meant to me. He knows that. I'm very much an Oma's girl. And he was like, if I can do one thing for my girl, I'm going to go take her to see my family. Like, I know there are women who are concerned, like, oh, does he like me? Oh, he didn't text back. And I was like, be mad about it. My man took me to go see my family on the other side. So there's that. So it was just a very deep, I don't even know if I can put it into human words, honestly, but to have that, to not only be able to see him and to hang out and to have our moment, but he was like, I'm going to take you to see the people that you want to see. You haven't seen Oma yet. I'm going to go take you to see her. It was amazing. It was beautiful.
So special. Just so cool and meaningful.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I would be like, I want to do it again. Can we do it again?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been reluctant because it was so deep and so heavy. I sent that link to my friend and my best friend, she believes in that kind of stuff. And I was like, look, I know I've told you to watch the movies or read the books. I was like, but I need you to do this meditation because she actually meditates. And I was like, I need you to tell me what happens to you. And we actually talked about it a couple weeks later, and she's like, I went somewhere. She's like, I
Oh, well,
like
shoot, send me the link. I want to try
yeah,
this
no,
out. Let's
I
see where I
totally
go.
yeah,
Oh gosh, I'd be crying too. I'm a crier. That's just me,
yeah,
but you had me about ready to cry listening to your grandma give you a kiss.
yeah. That
Oh
was
my gosh,
like
that's incredible.
it's the physicality of it, like you can see things in your mind's eye in a dream, but when you really get that touch, like, her skin on my cheek and in her home, she wasn't in her home because she had a stroke a few years ago, and she was in assisted living, so she'd been living there for the last 6 7 years. So to see her home how it was, and the furniture was still there, and her photos were there, and they're all just hanging out like they normally would on a Saturday, all having coffee at Oma's house, and they were just so excited to see me and look so healthy. And, me being petty, I'm like, I want to be here and have coffee too.
Right? Oh,
But yeah,
such a
it was,
cool experience. I'm glad that you just thought, what the heck? Why not?
yeah, just to try
Oh,
something different. But definitely, as someone who doesn't meditate, as someone who doesn't do the Headspace app, or sits quietly every morning or every night, doing the hemisync for somebody like me, and to really physically go somewhere else and to have those experiences where you have the touch and the sound and the smell, and you're seeing your people, like that's indescribable.
indescribable indeed. If today's story moved you in any type of way, it would mean the world to us if you would like to make a small donation to the Partnership to End Addiction on behalf of Edwina's friend Justin. We'll provide the link to it in our show notes. And as always, if you are interested in sharing your story, please send an email to nextrealmpodcast@gmail.com. That's nextrealmpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, friends, and we will see you in the next episode.